Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to panel discussion, Finance Secretaries Roundtable, tricky phase of finances with the changing priorities and new normal. The ongoing pandemic has brought a new set of challenges for the government administrators who are tasked with spearheading the optimal utilization of funds for growth. Both planned and non-planned expenditures are under duress due to sudden dip in revenue. The challenge further seems to be compounded by drive for vaccination process, financial shortfall, and at times delayed release of funds by the center to the state governments. This panel discussion focuses on gross state domestic product sectors, committed expenditure, GST compensation, deficits, including 15th Finance Commission's recommendations for 2020 and 21 and future roadmaps, and some of the best reforms taking place in the state also. We all know that due to the impact of COVID-19, 2020-21 financial year was not standard year with respect to the performance of the economy and government finances. So my first question to Mr. Rajgopal Devra, sir, what is the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the state finances, ongoing initiatives, future growth plans? Have you ever seen such a situation, bad situation faced by the state governments in the past? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I am really delighted to be here, being part of this roundtable. Probably this is one of the worst ever financial crisis we have ever seen in the last 30, 40 years of state. There are two reasons for it. One is the way it has impacted the speed at which our revenues have sudden drop into the revenue flows, tax flows. That is one part of it. The second part of it, the expenditure side. There was urgent need to repurpose our expenditures so that we cater to the health emergency. So the entire revenue flow was catering to one purpose, that is the pandemic and fighting it out and mitigating the health disaster. In the process of doing so, we, at the state level, various states must have approached in a different way and different framework and different strategies. However, at the state government level of Maharashtra, we did follow a set pattern wherein we tried to cut down our expenditure, which is not necessary, compulsory, mandated. And by cutting down whatever savings we had, we tried to divert it to fight the pandemic. While fighting the pandemic, there were two things. One is the infrastructure, health infrastructure is one part of it, and how to roll out the mitigation measures, economic mitigation measures to cater to the needs and requirements of various sections of the society. That's how the government of Maharashtra has strategized its fiscal policy in the year 2021 and 21-22 too continues to be the same pattern actually. Probably we did see little uptick in the economy actually. Even in the financial status, there is a little uptick, but still we are still cautious, and there is a lot of discussion about third wave coming. So we are all prepared to see how we can address the third wave and maneuver the financial crisis.
Thank you, Mr. Rajgopal. Over to Mr. Vishal Dev, sir. Welcome to the panel discussion. As we know that due to the impact of COVID-19, the year 2020 and 20 was not standard year with respect to performance of the economy and government finances. In terms of, sir, Odisha government, what is how impactful of the COVID-19 pandemic on the state finances, and how do you strategize your ongoing and future growth plans?
So before the pandemic struck in March 2020, we had already presented a development-focused budget with a transformative agenda. But then the COVID-induced lockdowns altered the scenario completely. Safeguarding lives came with the burden of compromising on livelihoods. Revenue realization suffered, and this necessitated expenditure reprioritization in line with the current needs. What we faced was a double whammy. On the one hand, revenue receipts declined by about 20% during the first 2 months, which is April and May. On the other, COVID-19 response entails significant escalation of expenditure. Health infrastructure had to be ramped up, and new schemes had to be launched because we have a very large migrant population which had started coming back from Gujarat, Maharashtra, and other states. We were the first state in the country to separate COVID care from regular healthcare facilities. We set up dedicated COVID hospitals in every district much before the cases began to rise. And all social welfare schemes, social security, including food security, was extended to the most vulnerable sections of the society. And in fact, pensions as well as rations were supplied in bulk for a few months in advance, when even in the first stage of lockdown. And moving forward, I think and this is true of almost all the states, the emphasis would have to be on generation of employment and livelihoods and revival of the economy with higher investment in priority sectors. And as far as a similar situation is concerned, I don't think any state has faced a situation this bad ever in the past.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And over to Mr. Samir Verma. Welcome to the panel discussion, sir. We hear that the reforms in LPG has completed 30 years in Uttar Pradesh. Just would like to know how you align this reforms initiative with the central government's scheme, and what has been your experience so far in this topmost reforms in LPG? Can you highlight?
Good afternoon for having me in full session of ET-BFSI CXO Conclave 2021. And I'm really privileged to share the screen, this space with the subject experts and the policymaker. And I'm also sure that all of us must be vaccinated by now and are under the safety net right now. We have completed 3 decades of LPG, and I would like to start with the famous quote by Dr. Manmohan Singh at that time, that no power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come. Let the whole world hear it loud and clear. And India is now wide awake. It was a famous quote which he used when he presented that budget in 1991. And now, after 30 years, after these LPG reform, I think that idea has come from our current Prime Minister, and that idea is Atmanirbhar Bharat. And that idea itself will start, that's how I believe that this idea is going to start the second leg of the economic reform. Now, you should not expect me to translate this Atmanirbhar Bharat word into some English language word or into any other language, because it cannot be completely translated. Actually, there is no accurate translation of this. It is not actually self-reliant or self-sustainable or self-sufficient. Because here the word self, I think it is connoted with soul. And that soul, it represents the wishes and the aspirations of the 100.4 billion odd people of India. And when we say that after 3 decades of LPG reforms, where we are now, so even in our kitchen supply, when we say that we have moved from LPG to PNG, so that phrase I would like to use here, that from LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization, we have now moved to PNG, that is prosperity, net worth, and growth. And how will you measure the prosperity of any country? That can be measured in the term of poverty eradication, that can be measured in the term of wealth creation, that can be measured in the form of GDP size, which has grown over 3 decades, and also the size of the budget, per capita income, and all. If you remember that before 1991, the power reduction percentage point reduction rate was only 0.44%, and it rose to 1.36%. And I'm sure, and if you go by the data, and the latest data which has been released by the World Bank, more than 330 million people have been successfully lifted from the poverty line. Although, if you compare it with the present position of the pandemic position, surely India is facing a great threat that more and more number of people might again be, trapped into that poverty depth. But even then, we must say that these three decades of LPG reform that has been of great help for so many of Indians to come out of their poverty net. Even the multi-dimensional poverty indicators, they have also improved in India, and it has reduced from 55% to 28%, you say, from the period from 2005 to 2016. There are certain very, you can say they are very small indicators, but they touch the life of Indians in a very intangible way, like their access to electricity. It was lately has risen up to 93%, which was just 70% in 2007. access to sanitation and drinking water. We all know that all the states, all the urban bodies, all the villages, they have achieved the target of being ODF. And now around 99% of the Indian population, they have access to the sanitation and fresh water. So these are certain things which we have, as a fruit from latest development, and the path was shown by the LPG. Now, if we see, as far as the indicators are concerned of the growth, when I use the term PNG, so say, for example, GDP, which was in 1991 barely 206 billion US dollar, while right now it is more than 350 billion US dollar. In Uttar Pradesh itself, in 1991, when the then budget was presented by the then Chief Minister, Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav, it was merely 60 billion US dollar, and now it is 270 billion US dollar in 21-22. And you must be surprised that the size of our budget, that is 5.51 lakh crore right now, which we have presented for the 2021-22, and the size of the GDP, which we have right now, 20 lakh crore, that is equal to New Zealand, almost to the size of a country. So in that way, we have come a long way in those 3 decades. And see, as far as the budget size is concerned, in 1991, it was just 1.1 lakh crore. And while recently the central government has presented a budget to the tune of 34.5 lakh crore, so 34 times rise in the budget size itself. Similarly, if you compare it with the per capita income, that is it has increased from 300 US dollar to around 1900 US dollar. So if you summarize it, you will see that we have seen the growth of Indian economy by more than 9 times. Size of the budget has expanded by 19 times, and income also has increased by 5 times since 1991. Now, prosperity of the people can also be measured by studying changed buying behavior. A customer, they do not only have willingness to make purchases, but they also have ability to pay. Now, and it has come due to more options and choices available today. And economy, after all, is making the best choice from the available alternatives. Now, if you see the next part of the PNG, that is net worth, we should not forget the India Inc., how it has performed over 3 decades. I must bring this fact into your notice that lately you must have gone to the news that Taj Hotel Group is the strongest hotel group in the whole world lately. Asian Paint, they have secured the 2nd position in the world. And every month you will hear that a new unicorn is added into the kitty. We already have more than 50. And in this calendar year itself, we have more than 17. And Byju's having been the latest decacorn. So from where they are coming, these are all the products from last 10 or 12 years, or say less than a decade. So definitely the net worth of the Indian companies, of the Indian people, of the associations, of the banking companies, of the NBFCs, that is all increasing. And if you see growth, then a very small indicator, if you'd like to focus on that, just see that where the index was in 1991, it was 1027. And today it touched 56,000 points in BSE itself. If you compare the market capitalization, the largest company in 1991, it was more than 120 times bigger than the smallest company which was at that time. But right now, this difference has reduced to only 14 times. Even a startup like Zomato, when they hit the market, they reach $1 trillion. 1 trillion mark of the market capitalization. So definitely we have moved from LPG to PNG successfully. And I think the third thing, which is going to be, that is LAG, that is local, that is Atmanirbhar, and that is global. When our Prime Minister say, be vocal for local. So definitely it's going to help us to become a global. And of course, yes, when the LPG started in the year 1991, that was merely, it was, I personally think that it was because of CAD at that time, that current account deficit, and which was due to more import than export. Recently, due to the COVID, it is because of the fall in the production. Because there is a fall in the production, the demand has also fallen, and these are factors which are coupled in. So yes, during COVID, there is a shortfall in the supply side. There is a shortfall in the buying side also, because there are salary cuts, there are certain expenditure crunches also. People have delayed their expenditures also. People have suspended their idea of buying also at the present time. But yes, lately I see that the reforms which are being right now taken, in the second leg of this economical reform, they are more of intangible side. If you see the reforms lately which have been taken, like say it's farm bill or the labor laws or the insurance sector FDI increase or whatever name you say, these are the reforms which will impact the intangible side of the economy, and lately that will affect the growth in the economy. So I think that these 3 decades, they have been wonderfully absorbed by India, and the future path for India is very bright.
Thank you, Mr. Samir. Over to Mr. Rajgopal. Sir, we know that Maharashtra's total expenditure for 2021 and 2022 financial is estimated to be 4,84,091 crore, an annual increase of 13% over the previous year, 2019 and 20. As per the revised estimates, total expenditure last year is expected to be 1% higher than the budget estimate. I just want to ask you, sir, how is the state government is coping up with the situation? Are there any defined mandates, revised mandates for departments like austerity and self-discipline? If you can just share briefly on that.
Yeah, the state finances have been, the budgetary estimates, BE estimates, and then after that, the revised estimates have been seriously impacted by the COVID pandemic. However, we tried to address the shortfall in revenues, tax revenues, even for the GST compensation and other financial related shortcomings, by following 2 strategies. One was, as the government of India, right from the beginning of the COVID pandemic, stated they have allowed the states to borrow under the fiscal FRBM limits up to 5% of the GDP. Accordingly, we followed it, but though our we didn't touch even 3% of deficit, but still we have largely depended on market borrowings to finance our programs and schemes under different departments. As I said earlier, the major change was going to the health and nutrition part of it. The second strategy was to see how we could cut down pause some of the programs for the financial year 2021. Even 21 and 22 we planned, but majorly we plan to pause some of these state government sponsored programs in different departments, which could not give much of a economic leverage to the economy. That's how we try to balance our drained out finances. Here, I would like to say one measure the state government adopted. It was quite a different measure wherein in the course of reviving the economy after the pandemic, we were exploring various options. How do we incentivize the industry? Various sectors wherein employment is a major factor. As everyone said, the migration of migrant labor, unemployment, these have become major concerns for the state of Maharashtra, which is majorly a service-oriented economy and to some extent a manufacturing economy. So we were severely hit. So one way of reviving it is to see how do we incentivize these industries. A simple measure we took, which was very well appreciated by the various stakeholders in the economy, including the government of India, and various state governments also followed the same measure. That was the stamp duty registration, which is one of the major tax collectors for the government of Maharashtra. I know we were one of the major stamp duty percentages wise. We are on the upper limit, but still we said, no, let us try and see how we can incentivize construction industry, which is a major employer and gives employment jobs to various sections of the society. So we have cut it down by almost 75%. When we were cutting it down, we were aware, yes, it is a major contributor. We have almost like 30,000 crores coming from one tax. But still, let us say at the government level, top political executive level, it was decided we'll cut it down by 75% for the 3 months. After that, by 50% for the 3 months. That is up to January, up to March 21. So that has really impacted the industry. Despite the pandemic, the construction industry, building industries continue to grow. Our stamp duties for those 6 months, the initial 3 months and the later on 3 months, till the end of financial year 2021, has really increased because the pent-up demand and pent-up demand was there in the market. So all those inventories which were waiting to be sold, they were sold immediately, and it contributed to our taxation reserves. That is one measure which was very well appreciated by the local stakeholders as well as different partners in the economy. That is one part. Apart from that, we try to see how we can revive the industry. Industries bring up the migrant labor who have migrated to different states. Majorly, the labor come from Bihar, UP, Orissa, West Bengal. These are the states. We try to attract these migrant labor once again. And the latest estimate is we have almost reached 80% of the migrant labor have come back to Maharashtra, and they started working, and we have started giving employment opportunities to them. Once again, their livelihoods were re-established in the local economy. This is how we try to revive the economy. And as of today, we see increase in tax revenues definitely, but though it is not as it is pre-COVID times, but uptick is visible, and we are more we are keen to see how it pans out in the coming 2-3 months, so that a trend is established. So we are keenly watching the economy, evolving economy, state economy especially.
Do municipal bonds for local government, I mean urban local bodies, part of the top priority?
Yeah, municipal bonds were discussed in some time back. We did raise municipal bonds for the Municipal Corporation of Pune. Long back, one more municipal corporation raised it. But however, given the Pune and Mumbai, the big municipal corporations and the financial health, we don't see much of a requirement for that. But a municipal corporation like Mumbai has sufficient funds, sufficient reserves to address various challenges. And that too, they are on the eve of the upcoming election. So it is not appropriate for them to go.
Thank you, Mr. Rajagopal. Over to Mr. Vishal Dev, sir. We know that Odisha's total expenditure is for this current year is targeted at 1,70,000 crore. This is an annual increase of 17% over the actual expenditure of the previous 2019 and 20. So coming to the fact that how is state government is coping up with the situation? The same question I would like to repeat is any defined mandates, revised mandates for departments, austerity and self-discipline in place, and any alternative municipal bonds kind of thing you have in plans with the Odisha government?
So, when any state government or any government faced with this crisis typically responds in the same way. You look at austerity measures and you look at augmenting our resources. So in our case also, we came out with a mixed response, which comprised of expenditure reprioritization and revenue augmentation. As part of the reprioritization exercise, some less priority schemes were deferred or were allowed to continue with reduced scope and allocation to create fiscal space for COVID-related expenditure. While several other priority projects, especially related to livelihoods and capital projects, were identified for implementation in a time-bound manner. What we also did is, we did some out-of-the-box thinking, and we came up with some very creative resource mobilization measures. So one is we increased the corpus of our contingency fund from 400 crores to 2,000 crores through an ordinance. Secondly, we have some off-budget resources like the District Mineral Fund, UMBARTC, etc. We mobilized about 8,000 crores from these funds to supplement the budgetary outlay. In addition, a special drive was taken up for mopping up funds from closed schemes or bank accounts which had been lying defunct. And you'll not believe about 3,500 crores was mobilized through this exercise. And overall, the emphasis was primarily on better compliance, realization of arrears, and one-time collections. And through this, along with the renewal of mining leases and realization of arrears, etc., the state's own revenue year on year between March last year and March this year has shown a growth of 20.6%. The problem is, the second wave of COVID has again, it's rekindled the need for charting a fresh response with respect to lives and livelihoods. And lessons from the first wave had already brought to fore the need for finding alternative and self-sustainable forms of employment. Pursuing that idea, the government has, prioritized agriculture and allied activities. They've been given significant impetus, and we've also intensified our engagement with MSMEs, self-help groups, etc., which form a very, very important component in our scheme of reviving our economy. Apart from that, we're also committed to simplifying the business environment to promote Odisha as an investor-friendly business and manufacturing hub.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Over to Mr. Samir Verma. We know that Uttar Pradesh total expenditure for 2021-22 is targeted at 5,50,271 crore. This is an annual increase of 20% over the previous than 2019-20. And just want to understand your states. How do you balance growth with the reforms when less revenues are in place? Any strategies are being adopted, or an austerity continues, or self-discipline is maintained? Can you just briefly inform?
Yes, like Uttar Pradesh is also dependent mainly on market borrowings, and let me take you to some figures also. When compared to central gross revenue by the central government in Q1 of 21-22, it has increased by 97% if you compare. But the devolution to the state, it has decreased by 12.3%. However, Uttar Pradesh was lucky to have more than 8,000 crore of devolution from the state, from the center to the state. And the tax collection in Uttar Pradesh, along with the GST, is also dependent on the taxes like which we get from excise and stamp and transportation, etc. And yes, of course, because of lockdown, especially in the first phase of COVID, these revenues, they were hampered badly. But this year, the state government decided not to impose any lockdown. Rather, we used to say these local restrictions. In UP, the term which was used like Corona curfew, not as lockdown. So all our industrial activities, they were on. And we also try to manage that the state finances may not be hampered so badly. And when we were comparing the tax collection for the month of July when compared to the last year, I think we are in a better position, and year-on-year basis also, our tax collection has increased. However, yes, our market borrowing for the 21-22, it will be more to the tune of 10,000 crore surplus. Definitely the figures I would not like to disclose here right now. But yes, the way Uttar Pradesh has handled the situation, see, why this mood was negative? Because of COVID. And people are also watching, and the whole economic world and the industrial world is, they are also watching how the government is handling the issue. So as the latest, I would like to bring it to your notice that right now there are more than 15 districts which have 0 cases of COVID. So these are things, these are the data which definitely they increase confidence among the business sector. We are doing more than 4 lakh tests every day. As far as the vaccination is concerned, also Uttar Pradesh stands number 1 in the whole state, in the whole country. If you compare with the ease of doing business ranking, we stand at the 2nd position. Uttar Pradesh has come up with a very novel format, novel platform called Nivesh Mitra, where you will see and you will get all the NOCs and all the clearances from all the required departments at one go. However, I was going through a news article a few days back that central government is going to launch a similar portal named Madhyam, in which from wherever these clearances are to be obtained. So we are already on that path. But yes, we must understand that in a state like Uttar Pradesh, having the size, there are certain committed expenditures Annually, we have more than 2,25,000 crore committed expenditure, which largely goes into the payment of pensions and salaries and repayments, etc. But yes, we are on a right path. And as far as the self-control is concerned, cash management and financial control is concerned, or austerity is concerned, yes, we are closely looking at whatever models are being adopted by the other states. And lately, on 30th of June of this year, when the central finance minister, she asked the departments to reduce their expenditures to the tune of 20%. And so we have also adopted that, and we have instructed our line departments also, except health and agriculture and all those sectors, to reduce their expenditures. And yes, because the election year is also on, and UP will be an election-bound state, so it will impact our economy in its own unique way, because there will be certain areas which may be politically, pressed upon to allocate more and more funds. But what we have done as Finance Department Uttar Pradesh, we have asked all the line departments to prepare your projects, which are going to be completed in next 2 months, 4 months, and 6 months. So now we are having in our hand a complete action plan for the next 6 months, just when the state will be going into election. And as far the release of the funds is concerned, we are releasing the fund only on those priority. Mean the projects which are in the priority list of the department, only the funds are for those projects are being released. And I'm very happy to say that even our political leadership, they are very much sensitive for these economical situations. And as of now, we do not see any, emerging thing which is going to affect us negatively in a longer way. And yes, we are coming out of that phase. And even for the third phase, UP is ready. We already have prepared for that. And as Sir Vishal sir from Odisha had been saying that Odisha supplied oxygen to 19 states. Yes, Uttar Pradesh also got oxygen from Visakhapatnam and from Odisha also. But we were the first state to develop our own system of oxygen tracker, where we could track where that oxygen tanker particularly is. So all the states, they are fighting with the situation. Uttar Pradesh is also coping up. And state finances, as far as they are concerned, we are dependent on GST collections and devolutions from the state central government, and collection from our own sources. And we are on the right path, and we'll be coming over this very soon.
Thank you, sir. Over to Mr. Rajgopal, sir. 2 questions I have. This is the final question I want to ask. Is borrowings and paying interest yearly along with the salaries and pensions, particularly borrowing and paying interest yearly, is almost 25,000 to 30,000 close to yearly. Is it a concern? One. My second question, sir, how do you see the future roadmap becoming positive revenue states, or going back to the previous year of 2019 kind of a situation in future? Will it take longer time? Just your views.
Yeah, true. One major concern in Maharashtra is the servicing of the debt. You said it is around 25,000 crores a year, but it is slightly higher than what you estimated. Though our budget papers are there, it is available in the public domain. However, our borrowings, annual borrowings, is slightly above the servicing we do, debt servicing we do. In any fiscal management, as long as we are below that ratio, we can manage it. But the indication, the stress levels would keep increasing more and more as we touch the borrowing level, annual borrowing level, and the servicing capacity we have it. So we are keeping those figures well in monitoring and managing it well. And FRBM allows such kind of levels. That is one part of it. But we are actually concerned about the increasing borrowings. But for the state governments, irrespective of the state, whether it is Maharashtra, UP, or any other state, given the pandemic and the way we were hit hard, we were left with no other alternatives but to borrow. The reason being, GST is one of the major taxation sources for the state governments. Rest of the taxation sources are small and meager. They may not be contributing much in percentage levels. But GST is one, and GST is really hit hard. Even before COVID, we had problems with the GST collections, but the GST is streamlined today, and we are hoping we would touch our earlier levels the sooner the better. That is one part of it. But however, we are leaving aside GST and how we are trying to see GST collections can be increased. It is a collective effort of all the states and the union government. And at the state level, we are trying to see how we can mop up various other sources also. Sources of revenue and non-revenue sources, like land monetization and other measures available. NITI Aayog has been advocating land monetization on a big scale, and government of Maharashtra is also seriously looking into these options available to mop up our revenues. That is one part of it. But coming to the state revenues, how do we foresee in the next financial year? I believe 21, 22, as of today, month on month, though we are comparing to the low levels of 2021, we are doing slightly okay, and there is an improvement in taxation collections. And given the austerity measures we are carrying forward in this financial year also, we may be able to match up with our budgetary estimates. However, one needs to see and monitor how this trend pans out, given the threat of COVID third wave, which we are expecting. Probably our experts, our health experts have been advising us it may start in the month of September, October, and it may peak out in the month of December. So we are making funds available for mitigation of the COVID wave. But fortunately, if it doesn't happen, then we will be very, very good financial position, and this year will be as it will be a normal financial year. Given this situation of COVID third wave not coming, hopefully it may not come. All indications are we may be able to tackle even if third wave is coming, but it can be tackled in a smooth and easy way, unlike second wave. In this relation, I just wanted to mention one more planning state government did for third wave mitigation. We did plan out, given the experience of second wave, how much oxygen is required in case of increase in number of cases, more than the second wave cases. What is the estimated oxygen levels, and what month would be the peak level, and what are the requirements in different districts and different cities. These have been estimated, and even the transportation of oxygen, storing of oxygen has very well been planned, and these plans have been materializing. They have been operationalized as of today, and even the medicines equipment and COVID centers, everything has been planned very well. And hopefully the COVID wave will not come. Even if it comes, we are sure and confident we'll be able to mitigate this pandemic too.
Thank you very much, sir. Over to Mr. Vishal Dev. Sir, is borrowings a concern for Odisha, and how do you see the future roadmap in becoming positive revenue states? If you can just briefly. My final question.
So, as far as borrowings are concerned, we've always been within the 3.5% limit of fiscal deficit, and we are kind of showcased as a model for FRBM and for maintaining fiscal deficits within the limit. The issue currently is the pandemic hasn't really shown any signs of ebbing, and the impact of the second wave and the apprehension of the third wave necessitate that we continue with fiscal prudence and livelihoods continue to remain safeguarded. These are the two critical issues. Going forward, we of course will continue to evaluate and address the situation in a manner that aids lives and livelihoods alike. On the revenue side, the COVID impact on GST, the good news is it seems to be tapering off. Strict enforcement will need to continue so that more additional more dealers can be brought into the tax net, thereby widening the GST net, adding to the revenues, and the leakages need to be plugged, detection of tax evasion. And what's important is taking expeditious action against all such detections, using technology and improving monitoring and bringing all these dealers under the tax net by conducting surveys effectively. In Odisha, the commercial tax organization has been focusing on increasing the tax base of GST with regular survey and registration. And this year alone, this fiscal, we've added about 10,000 new registrants into the tax net. The other important issue is that, mostly what has been seen is that post-crisis recoveries are usually consumption-driven vis-a-vis investment-driven. We need investment-led recoveries because they are durable, they are sustainable, and they play a better role in job creation. And that is what we are focusing on, as I was mentioning earlier. Resurgent and sustainable economic activities will spur greater revenue generation, giving Odisha the much needed stability. A problem which is unique to Odisha is the low banking penetration. Almost about 2/3 of our Gram Panchayats, lack banking services. So we are trying to intensify availability of banking services and credit into the rural hinterland of Odisha. And we believe this will make a huge difference when it comes to reviving the economy and making the economy resurge. So these are some of the actions that we are taking.
Thank you very much, sir. Over to Mr. Samir Verma. Sir, my final question. How do you see the future roadmap in becoming positive revenue states? Is borrowing a concern for Uttar Pradesh?
Yes, of course, borrowing is a concern for Uttar Pradesh also. And however, a fixed timeline cannot be given. But as Maharashtra has been saying that suppose if third wave is not coming at all, so definitely we will be in a better position. And if you compare with the growth of GDP also, Uttar Pradesh has a double-digit growth, around 11%, and that is higher than the central government projection for themselves. But yes, if you compare with 2019, I think the percentage which we lost during 2021, and if we are able to make up that, we will be standing somewhere at the rates of in 1999 to 20. So, in Uttar Pradesh also, borrowing is a concern, but let me focus on certain things here. For any state government, expenditure is not on the line of corporate business. There may be expenditures with little or no return if calculated on ROC terms, return of capital. Because when you spend in the social sector schemes, or when you, we are running, as India is running right now, I think the world's biggest free food program. More than 850 million people are given food, and that is not for days or weeks, that is for months. And it started last year. In Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, that is up to, that has been extended up to November this year. I think this is the world's biggest free food program. And that is not, we, when we were preparing for the exam, we used to came across the phrase of food for work. It's not food for work, it is free food. So from where this is coming? This is all coming from the, taxpayers' money and savings. But yes, these kind of spendings and these kind of expenditure on the part of the government, they improve this intangible side of the economy. And Uttar Pradesh is also eyeing to become $1 trillion economy. That our chief minister has set that target. Like central government has decided $5 trillion economy. So Uttar Pradesh has set a target for themselves, $1 trillion economy. And we are also working very closely to achieve the targets of SDG goals. In which this financial inclusion is a very important part, and that achieving that CD ratio, the desired CD ratio, is also a very important part of that, because it directly reflects the pattern of lending from the banks. So we are working on that, and we are really happy to see that over last few years, this banking penetration and financial inclusion in Uttar Pradesh, it has been, at a heartening speed. The government spending sometimes has to be increased even, at the cost of the fiscal deficit. In Uttar Pradesh, right now, the budget estimates are about 4.1%. And that is well below than what has been projected by the central government for themselves, 6.8%. But as of now, if I calculate the situation, we may have some more room to play as far as the fiscal deficit is concerned, because when government is increasing its expenditure, they are actually inviting the private sector also to come forward and to increase their investment. Like few days back, our finance minister, when she invited the private sector to increase their risk-taking capacity. So this is kind of expenditure, and when the government should increase their expenditure, these are the perfect times for that. Because when you come forward to increase your expenditures, you also attract the private sector and the other persons to make their investment and make their expenditure. So as far as Uttar Pradesh is concerned, yes, GST, it is making the biggest part as far as the tax collection is concerned, but this GST is all consumption based. And this consumption is from the consumers. And the consumers will consume only when they will have money or they will have opportunity to spend. So government, as far as the infra projects are concerned, they are funding hugely. As of now in Uttar Pradesh, we have more than 19 airports, and one of the biggest in the industry, this Jewar Greenfield Airport, international level airport with 6 airstrips that is being constructed at Jewar near New Delhi. 5 expressways we are making at the same time, and they are going to be the country's longest one. And, given the size of the population in Uttar Pradesh, whenever a problem comes to us, its magnitude becomes so much. Even if we have to give relief to this pandemic hit population, if I would like to share some data with you, like till May 2021, around 7.35 lakh metric ton food grain was distributed among 10.50 crore beneficiaries. They were affected by pandemic. Similarly, more than 6.6 crore food packets, they were distributed through community kitchens. And more than 300 crore we already have distributed among the beneficiaries who were the street vendors or the petty shopkeepers who lost their livelihood during pandemic at the rate of 1,000. And to support this MSME sector, yes, we have very unique scheme in our state, that is ODOP, one district, one product. Uttar Pradesh, that is, there are so many districts having their unique products and unique USPs and unique selling quotient also. And the government is also very much focused how we can, facilitate industries from Uttar Pradesh to get listed on the stock exchange, BSE, NSE also. And last week we had a meeting with the NSE officials also. So that the horizon of their business to expand and to bring more money for them. Okay. So if this third wave of COVID, God save us from that. So if that doesn't come, like all other states, we will also be doing well. This and one more news I would like to share with you, that day after tomorrow we will be presenting our supplementary budget also, because the state is going into elections. So just to make a few commitments before going to the elections, the government would like to come with this supplementary budget. And of course, yes, given the size of our regular budget estimate, the expenditure have till now been not to that tune that we will, see. But it all depends that how this pandemic behaves. Otherwise, all the other indicators like e-way transport bills or the consumptions or whatever product you see, you pick and just see the level of consumption and the pattern of consumption, you will see that we are on the right path and economy is coming back to the track.
Thank you, sir. And with this, I conclude the panel discussion. On behalf of ETBFSI, I sincerely thank you, Mr. Rajgopal, Mr. Vishal Dev, Mr. Samish Verma, for joining the panel discussion, Finance Secretaries Roundtable, tricky phase of finances with the changing priorities in new normal, and sharing your very interesting insights in the panel discussion. Thank you very much, gentlemen.